Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a list of 15 different books that I'm hoping to read in the spring, and then I'm going to rank them based on which one I think I'll like the most, the least, and then everything in between. I think it'll be really fun to come back to this when springtime is over and see how much what I predicted would be my tastes are actually lined up with what my tastes will actually be. This list is tentative. I don't know for a fact that I'm going to be able to get to all of these, especially because 3 of the books on this list I don't currently own. I've been trying to go to my library more this year, but with everything going on, the library is currently closed. I don't know when it's going to open. A couple of these are going to be new releases, so unless I buy them full price brand new, then I might not be able to get to them if the library's not open by the time they come out. I'll go ahead and give you a rundown of the books that are on this list as well as the genres, because while I primarily read fantasy, there are a couple of other things mixed in. The list is as follows: The Book Thief, which is historical fiction; Spin the Dawn, young adult fantasy; King of Scars, and Language of Thorns, both young adult fantasy, Language of Thorns being a collection of short stories; Half a King, young adult fantasy; Queen of Blood, adult fantasy; Rage of Dragons, adult fantasy; Dry, which I guess is dystopian? It's our world, but like we were running out of water. Winter, which is young adult sci-fi; The Invasion of the Tierling, adult fantasy and the second book in a series; the second book in the Farseer trilogy, which is adult fantasy; Fireborn, which I believe is historical fantasy, young adult; The Last Kingdom, historical fiction. The last 2 books are both fantasy, The Gilded Ones and Forest of Souls. These are books that are not out yet, but I'm hoping I will be able to read them when they are released. Before we get into it, let me know, of the books that you're hoping to get around to in the next 3 months, which one do you think is going to be a new favorite? A little bit about my personal tastes. I find that more often than not, young adult books are pretty much going to be enjoyable for me, but it's rare for them to be absolute favorites. I find that usually my absolute favorite books are adult fantasy, but when I don't end up liking an adult fantasy, it's usually a huge miss. Because of this, I'm gonna go ahead and fill in what I think is gonna be my favorite and what I think is gonna be my least. Oh man, it's hard to say least favorite because I obviously am reading these, picking these up because I'm interested in them, but I mean, something's gonna rank the lowest on this list. So it doesn't mean I think it's gonna be bad, I'm gonna hate it. It's just that I think I'll like other things more. So filling in the top spot, I'm gonna go ahead and put Queen of Blood. This is the first book in a trilogy that I've heard fantastic things about. The setting sounds pretty cool too. It's a forest setting, and I think there's a lot of war stuff going on in it, but it sounds like the magic and everything is pretty unique. In the number 15 spot, even though I know this is gonna make some people sad, I'm gonna have to put the second book in the Farseer trilogy because I didn't love the first one, Assassin's Apprentice. I thought the writing was really good with him for most of the book being a child. In adult fantasy, I don't really connect to child characters very much. So I'm hoping with him being older in the second book that maybe I'll connect with him more. But as of right now, just based off of my feelings with the first one, I'm gonna have to rank it in the 15 spot. The only other book on this list that's a sequel would be The Invasion of the Tierling, and I've heard very mixed things about the sequels to The Queen of the Tierling, which I loved, but I've heard that the trilogy ending is really bizarre and weird. But I don't know if that's necessarily true for the second book. Because I'm so unsure about this one, I think I'm gonna rank it right in the middle. I don't know if I'm gonna love it. I don't know if I'm gonna not love it. So I'm just gonna put it right in the middle. Feels pretty safe. Next, I'm gonna find a spot for The Book Thief. Now, I feel like I'm kind of cheating with this one because I did read it already and it's gonna be a reread, but I don't remember it that well, which is weird because it should be very memorable. However, I do find that historical fiction, when it's a good historical fiction for me, especially if it's got a lot of impact and tragedy, and it's something that's about a significant thing in history, usually those really get me. So I'm gonna go ahead and put The Book Thief at number 2. Next up, I'm gonna try to figure out where to put Rage of Dragons. The cons that I've heard about this book sound like all the kinds of things I don't like. For example, the main character apparently has just rage mode. Rage of Dragons. It's almost, maybe it's supposed to be that way, I don't know. But I've heard that this character, he pretty much just jeopardizes missions that involve a lot of other people that have been planned out because he gets angry. And I'm so afraid that if I agree with that statement, I'm gonna hate the book because well, not the book itself, but I'm gonna hate the character, and then as a result my enjoyment will go down. However, I've also heard that this book is fantastic because I'm so on the fence on whether or not I'm gonna like it. I feel like I gotta either put it in the 7 spot or the 9 spot. I think I'm gonna put it in the 9 spot. I'm going to jump now to one of the books that is not out yet, but is going to be coming out, The Gilded Ones. And this story, obviously it's not out yet, so it's not like I have a lot of other outside influence affecting what I'm currently thinking of it, like what it might end up being for me. It's totally up in the air based pretty much completely on the synopsis. It's about a girl whose blood shows that she has impurities, and so she ends up joining this army of people like her. Also, currently, if you look on Goodreads, there are some people who apparently have read the book. I'm assuming they have art copies, and it's an overwhelming amount of 5 stars already. So I'm thinking that this one might rank pretty high for me. It seems like it's got some stuff that's familiar. It seems like it's got that character who she's different and looked down upon, but then she's going to kind of have to prove herself, a little bit of an underdog. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm looking forward to with this one. I hope that's the case. I don't know if it's going to be quite at number 3. I don't even know if I can put it at 4, but I think I'm going to put this one at 5. This is hard. I'm also really indecisive, and I almost treat these sorts of things as if they have feelings, so ranking them lower, I'm like, I'm sorry, even though I haven't even read them. And they're books. Anyway, looking at this list, I'm going to try to rank something on the lower end again, and I think I'm going to have to put Dry by Neil Shusterman down in the number 14 spot, because whenever I get a book that's set in our world but the future, I mean, I love the Arc of the Scythe trilogy, but it can be very meh for me sometimes. You have to really pull me in. I have seen a lot of people say that they've never been thirstier reading a book. I'm gonna go ahead and put Language of Thorns. I think I'm gonna put it in the 12 spot. I was thinking I would put it in the 13 spot. I'm not the biggest fan of collections of short stories. A lot of you did say when I mentioned wanting to read it that you loved that story, that you felt like all of the individual short stories were delightful and lovely. Also, since so many of you also mentioned Half a King and how much you really loved that one, I'm gonna go ahead and find a place for that one. I really enjoyed Joe Abercrombie's The First Law trilogy. I didn't love the third one, and there were elements to this story that I didn't love, but his character work was so good. But I have heard that his young adult series isn't as character driven, it's more plot driven, and that it moves a lot faster. And I think I have an expectation in my mind of what Abercrombie's stories are going to be, and it sounds like this one's not really going to be that. So just because I'm very unsure of what to expect, maybe it'll blow me away, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this one at the 13 spot. Sticking with titles that have the word king in them, I can't figure out where King of Scars is gonna go. This is kind of sort of a spin-off story in the Grisha-verse. It has a character from the original Grisha trilogy / Six of Crows Crooked Kingdom duology. I think I'm gonna put it kind of high, but not anything too crazy. I think I'm gonna put this one at 7. Let's go back up to the high area. So I think for the third one, I'm actually going to go ahead and put The Last Kingdom here, which is a story about Vikings. It's historical fiction, obviously, but I find if you do a really good Viking story, it's so good for me. I love Vinland Saga. I love the Strongbow Saga. Apparently they're always sagas. Man, I just really, if you can get a good one, I just eat it up. I'm looking back at this list and I'm like, ugh, do I regret everything? I'm gonna go ahead and just put Winter in the 11th spot. It's the conclusion to the Lunar Chronicles. If it can pull off the ending of a series really well, then it'll probably be really great. But if it's just kind of a meh ending, then that definitely, I don't know. Series endings, I feel like if it doesn't stick the landing, then it almost makes you feel even more lukewarm toward it, because not even lukewarm, it just makes you agitated because you're like, oh, you were supposed to wrap everything up well. It could be great. That's the That's like the whole motto of this video of like, maybe it'll be great, maybe it won't be, I don't know. Last 3 spots would be 4, 6, and 10, and then the remaining books are Spin the Dawn, Fireborn, and Forest of Souls. And I'm really looking forward to all of these, so I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to put Spin the Dawn at 10. It sounds fun. It sounds kind of bizarre, but also very whimsical and a really good time. And sometimes those books end up ranking really high for me because it's just a nice, it's kind of sort of why a lot of us read, to just have a good time, to feel good, to escape stuff. So if it does that, I feel like it could rank extremely high, but because I don't know how much substance this book is gonna have, I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in the 10s. I'm gonna put it in the 6th spot. I feel like it has potential. I don't know, it seems like it's gonna be a good time. These last couple, man, I don't wanna put them in 4 and 10. I wish I could rank one of them higher. I'm gonna for now put Fireborn in 4. There are dragons in this. I think it's kind of historical fantasy, but also very politically driven, and all of those things are big checks for me. So that puts Forest of Souls at 10. This is a story, this is one of the ones that's not out yet, but this girl, she discovers that she has the ability, I guess, to bring people back to life. It's kind of like a, I didn't know I could do this, but she brings back one of her friends, and it's supposed to be this really strong sisterly type friendship, which I like really good friendships and stories. It could be really cool. She's been training to be, I think, the royal assassin or royal spy, something like that. So again, a lot of checks, just like Fireborn. And it seems so cool, but I guess I'm gonna have to take a look, see if there's any rearranging I need to do, and then I'll get back to you. After some deliberating, I have rearranged a few things. So this is my final list. We have Queen of Blood stayed number 1, really excited about this one. The Book Thief at number 2. Last Kingdom, 3. Fireborn, 4. I didn't change most of the top ones. The Gilded Ones, 5. Changed the next few. King of Scars, I put at 6. And then Spin the Dawn, I put at 7. I went ahead and put Forest of Souls at 8. Rage of Dragons, I kept at 9. I put Invasion of the Tierling at 10. I'm really scared about this one. I don't know, guys. We're gonna find out. I swapped Winter and Half a King just because series endings, they really gotta do a good job, and I just don't know with this one. So I put Half a King in the 11th spot. Language of Thorns, kept it at 12. Then I put Winter then at 13. And then Dry and Farseer, I kept at 14 and 15. I think I'm pretty happy with these predictions. I think it'll be really fun to see if they end up lining up with how I actually feel. Especially, it'll be kind of ironic if how I feel closely matches my original list more so than my final list. But if you're planning on reading any of these, I definitely want to know, where would you rank them? If you have read some of these, let me know. Am I totally wrong? Should I have ranked some of them way higher? Or if you've read some of them and you didn't like them, but I ranked them high, are you like, I don't know about all of you, but having done this really motivates me to want to get around to these books, even more so than I already do want to read these, because I'm really excited about a lot of them, but kind of trying to figure out how much I'm gonna like them just makes me really excited to pick them up. So if you need some motivation to read, to pick up some of the books that you own or are on your TBR, I highly recommend doing this, because now I can't wait to jump into these. Anyway, I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope it was enjoyable to watch. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.